Welcome to How to Start and Run a Dental Practice Successfully. This is a step-by-step comprehensive guide on how to start and run your own dental practice. This is a program that's split up into 23 modules. The first half I call Prudent Practice Startup, and the second half is called Flying First Year Success. This is me. I'm Dr. Raoul Mather. I practice full-time in Alberta, Canada. I am responsible for the planning, setup, and operation of 4 practices. 3 of those I've developed from scratch startups. Our family successfully owns and operates 3 of those practices today. I'm speaking to you in 2024. Our startup practices are earning over 6 million cumulatively, with 24% growth per year, at least. Prudent Practice Startup is going to take you from your practice being a thought in your head. And that's where I envision that you are right now, that you have a thought in your head that you would like to own your own dental practice. And perhaps you just don't know how to go about doing it, and you're scared to do it. Prudent Practice Startup will take you from this thought in your head to a fully built out, completed practice that's tailor made for you in a location that is best suited for your skills. Then, Flying First Year Success will take you from that tailor built construction that we just talked about to the end of your first year in practice ownership. So the goal at the end of that first year is to be earning equivalent to a very strong associate position. So in that position, at the end of your first year, you'll have an asset and a good solid income coming in. But you'll have explosive growth on the horizon as your practice goes from strength to strength. So part 1, Prudent Practice Startup. And just a reminder that this guide will include part 1 and 2. I just have them separated into 2 parts so that you can understand the shift in focus after Module 12. Module 1, is practice ownership worth it? This is Module 1, so we're going to go through it. That's a good question. Who are you? A strong identity leading to success. Turning your identity into your practice. We're going to look at the practice models, the types of practice models, and which formula is right for you. Location, how to nail your most important decision. We're going to talk about lease negotiation and being aware of disastrous pitfalls. We're going to talk about practice layout and design, saving money and creating efficiency. Equipment and supplies, what you really need. Sourcing the right contractor, of course, who will build it. Putting together a schedule. So again, from that first thought to a built-out practice. That's where we'll take you. Creating a budget and projecting towards your break-even point. And then we'll look at how to get a loan and putting your best foot forward for financing. And then the second part, Flying First Year Success, we want to build a great team, staffing the practice the right way. We'll talk to you about how to get patients from day one, marketing and advertising. We talk about community goodwill, organizing a launch, how to run your practice smoothly, the effective systems that you will need. And we're really going to get into the crux of the business aspects with the practice success formula using metrics, the right way to do a bonus plan, and business success, how to keep your overhead low. We're going to project your growth journey with the hybrid model, which I will introduce you to. We're going to talk about the entrepreneurial mindset for the dentist. And then we're going to talk about if you should be afraid of corporate dentistry and how to tackle that. We're going to put it all together, and we're going to make sure that you achieve a successful first year. Prudent Practice Startup Module 1. Is practice ownership worth it? Our main goals here, and by here in this guide, we want to save hundreds of thousands of dollars in the setup of your dental practice. Period. This is going to be a step-by-step guide taking you through the processes required to set up a successful practice. And we're going to instruct you on how to make your practice profitable and how to grow your practice throughout that important first year and beyond. So again, is practice ownership worth it? Why not buy a practice? Let's investigate that, the buying of a practice versus starting one up. I'm going to introduce you to my 2 objectives of practice ownership. Let's talk about some of those general concerns with buying a practice. I'm going to address my specific goals of practice ownerships. We're going to talk about the fears that people generally have with ownership and why practice ownership is worth it. Then I want to introduce you to the main underlying foundational thought process that we need to have towards starting a practice. And that's heads I win, tails I don't lose much. I'll go into that in greater detail. but you can potentially sell your practice for millions of dollars more than you could in the past. And then we're going to do an introduction to our specific startup practice method. Why not just buy a practice? The pros of buying an existing office are there. You have existing revenue, you have an existing patient base, existing equipment, existing staff, existing systems and procedures. Sounds like you have existing success just sitting there for you. So, what are my two main objectives of practice ownership? Now, this could be a longer list. These are the financial goals, but you can add to this list the feeling of rowing your own canoe, so to speak, meaning being the boss, having that freedom. But I want to focus more just on the financial parts here. So the two main objectives I see for practice ownership are A, to provide an income, and B, to build up an asset. So let's go back and look at that question. Why not buy a practice? Well, the existing revenue. But can you produce like the previous dentist? Do you do the same procedures? Let's say I'm trying to picture you here, but you could be a relatively younger dentist. If you're within 5, 6 years of dental school and you're buying a practice from a dentist who has been out for 30 years, they might have a wider range of procedures that they can do. They might be able to do it quicker than you can. So is that existing revenue going to drop off just by you simply buying the practice? Existing patient base. Well, I hate to break it to you, but you can expect to lose approximately 30% of those existing patients. Now, don't take that personally. It's nothing about you, but dentists, as you build your practice, you're going to see you will attract the type of patients that are a good match for you. And when you take over, you just may not be a great match and you could lose a lot of value. In fact, you should probably statistically expect to. Existing equipment. How old is that equipment? You have to replace the equipment soon. With each of my startups, without fail, around the 7 or 8 year mark, my new equipment or new-ish equipment at that point, that's when it starts to need replacing. You could potentially end up buying equipment twice, once with the practice purchase, and then when you have to replace it. Hopefully not too soon after you buy the practice. An existing staff. Well, many inherit expensive senior staff. These are the staff members that started early with the previous owner and had the majority of their career with them. Now, they might not be a good fit for your new endeavor. Will you have to lay people off? And then if you do, will this alienate other staff and patients? Will you be the bad guy or girl? Existing systems and procedures. Is the methodology of doing things efficient? Again, to tie back to the existing staff, if you were to introduce new ways of doing things, will these existing staff be on board with it? Or will they be too used to how they were doing things and they'll be and kind of resistant to change? If you implement new ways, will the staff be on board? Fair questions. My goals of practice ownership. Okay. One, to double the value of the practice within a 3 to 4 year time period. It's harder to do with purchasing an existing office, excuse me. So example one, you buy an office at 1 to 1.5 million and grow it to 2 to 3 million. Or two, you start an office for 500 and grow it to 1 to 1.5 million. You have the potential to earn 2 to 3 times your investment within 4 years. That's realistic. And two, to earn more than as an associate dentist, as well as being able to create the potential to earn without you having to be the one carrying out the treatment. The ability to have hygienists and associate dentists producing on your behalf, it just changes the games in terms of your career, on both your earnings and your longevity, but just the quality of your career. If you think about the term golden handcuffs, it's very aptly named. Golden handcuffs really does refer to being an associate dentist at times. You have the ability to earn a lot more compared to other people your age, compared to other industries and people with different jobs. However, it is tied to you being in that chair and carrying out treatment. You don't have hygienists working on your behalf. You don't have associate dentists working on your behalf. Being able to be an owner allows you to take part in that. And it can allow you to do less physical dentistry as you get older. So here are some of the fears of ownership that I hear quite often. Number one, debt levels are increasing. It's true. Two, competition seems to be increasing. Three, we're starting to see practices fail. And the continued rise of corporate dentistry is number four. So debt. The average student loan is over $300,000 and rising. Now, some of you are watching this thinking $300,000, I wish. It's more like $400,000 or $500,000. This is 4 times higher than the generation of dentists that graduated in the late 90s. The average startup practice debt is increasing because the average startup dental costs have increased significantly over the years. So debt increases the number every month that practitioners have to hit in order to break even and start paying themselves. A higher break-even point can start to affect the decision-making of dentists during dental treatment. That filling's now turned into a crown for patient so-and-so. That's moral pressure that can make us all a little uncomfortable. Increasing competition. How many of us have heard this? There seems to be a new dentist on every corner these days. I've heard that a few times. Even in less populated cities and towns, competition is growing in the dental field. Can we still attain that coveted one dentist to 2,000 people ratio? How can we compete when professional businesses have gotten into the dental field? And I'm talking about corporate dentistry. We'll address that. Practice failure. I remember when I started dental school, an uncle of mine who's a physician said to me, dentistry is recession proof. Good job. We were starting to see practices fail where we didn't see this before. The golden age of dentistry was a time when graduates used to leave school and open an office right away. Corporate dentistry, organizations that have the funding to operate dental practices similar to the business practices of successful corporations. They're able to leverage their size into creating business advantages which help them lower costs. In addition, they may possess the business knowledge that will make competing with them a daunting task. They can have different sizes and business models. Later in the course, I'll describe my ideal practice model for this economic environment in order to be successful. So again, is practice ownership worth it? Yes, but only if done prudently. Prudent, acting with wisdom, thought, and caution for the future. Now for some optimism. The dental industry is growing. The industry is doing over 158 billion a year in the US alone. The dental market's growing by 3% every year worldwide, and the market size of the dental industry in the US increased faster than the economy overall. Why such growth? An increase in disposable income globally, an increase in awareness of oral health importance, an increase in demand for cosmetic dental procedures. We live in the social media age, an increase in geriatric populations that are keeping their teeth now, and an overall increase in population size. Large dental organizations are competing for market share in a growing and lucrative industry. To all my dental friends out there, you belong to a growing, lucrative industry. Sometimes with the pressure and the way that things are going in your day-to-day careers, it can feel like that isn't the case, but it is. So is there a place for a single or small group of dentists to open an owner-operated dental practice and be successful? Yes. Small ownership practices can absolutely thrive as long as they're well thought out and efficient. You can lower your risk greatly, and you can control the downside exposure by being well prepared. So, this is a foundation of how I believe a successful single or group of private dentists can set up their practices. The mantra is heads I win and tails I don't lose much. Now, this was introduced by a gentleman named Monish Pabrai. So, some of you may know him. He is a famous investor businessman, friends with Warren Buffett. He moved to the United States in the 90s, I believe, and started an IT company, did very well, and then has started a fund investing in businesses all over the world. He has a famous quote. Basically, if you study entrepreneurs, there's a misnomer. People think that entrepreneurs take risk and then they get rewarded because they took that risk. In reality, entrepreneurs do everything they can to minimize risk. They are not interested in taking risk. They want free lunches and they go after free lunches. Interesting. Okay. So a free lunch. How do we get our free lunch here? How does that apply to us as a young dentist wanting to open their new practice? How can we apply this business mindset to our project? The answer: by being able to be more efficient compared to other dental operations while not sacrificing any quality or patient care. So, each of the following modules are designed with two main goals in mind. One, we want to be able to set up your practice with a savings of $200,000 to $300,000 compared to other startups. We need to. And two, to be able to run your practice effectively and efficiently in order to lower your break even point every month, thus lowering risk and increasing profit. Okay, so how did I apply heads I win, tails I don't lose much to how I open my practices? I want to give you the example of my first office that I opened. Okay, so when I did my research, the average setup price for a practice, five operatories, was $800,000. Now, this is when I was talking to the dental supply companies and getting costings. However, I noticed that when a practice that did fail, the average cost of taking over a failed startup practice was $700,000, also five ops. For example, you might see ads saying turnkey practice, just a brand new practice that's sitting there and they'll have maybe 50 patients. It just didn't work out, right? That I was seeing those for 700,000. So if you think about it, I set up for 800 and I either flip the coin. Heads I do well and the practice takes off, or B I fail and I've lost $100,000. Do you see that? Therefore, a failed startup was a loss of at least 100. More if you include lawyer broker fees and sale on the debt and so forth. However, I was able to start up for 500,000, still five ops, by doing it myself. Therefore, I've changed the scenario. My worst case scenario was a gain of $200,000. I've still built something that is worth $700,000. I just did it for 500. So now, heads, I have a successful practice, or tails, I've flipped a practice and I've made 200,000. So this isn't heads I win, tails I don't lose much. This is literally heads I win, tails I just win less. That is reducing risk. That is a freer lunch. Owning a practice can lead down multiple wealth avenues. Let's go through them. Number one, the eventual sale to another dentist, the eventual sale to a DSO or corporation. By the way, this guide is not advocating or bashing corporate dentistry. My main focus is on private general dentists who are looking to set up their practice, and I want you to be able to have an awareness of all the options that are available to you. And number three, maintaining ownership of your practice over your career and the potential investment of income. So, the eventual sale to another dentist. Now, up until recently, this was the main exit strategy for dentists. Sale of a practice was usually based on a valuation of between 75 to 125% of 1 year's revenue, depending on your location, right? So for example, a practice started at 500,000, which I did, and your equivalent based on where you are, that grows to 2.5 million in yearly revenue would sell for between 1.87 to 3.125 million. That's a return of investment of 3.75 to 6.25x of the initial investment. And this sale will come after a career, years of earning over 700K a year. Not bad. Okay, road number two, the eventual sale to a DSO or corporation. Today, corporate dentistry is motivated to buy up market share in a solid earning industry. This has led dental practices to be valued completely different than in the past. Now, the private equity companies that own a lot of the dental companies are using multiples of EBITDA to determine buyout packages. When a corporation is in expansion mode, I've seen EBITDA offers of 12x being offered. So an example, a dental practice, 12 years old, billing 2.5 million a year, 25% EBITDA, which means 625K, sold for a package of say, let's 10 times EBITDA, so sold for 6.25 million. So you started up for 500. You've made 12.5x your initial investment in 12 years while earning an average of approximately 725K a year during the 12-year period. Not bad at all. Now, I have to say, sometimes in these deals, they'll ask the dentist to stay on for a couple of years to ensure continued production, and there can be other stipulations. That's common seen in some of these deals with the corporates. But financially, from a broad sense, not bad. And now maintaining ownership. There's a lot of value in simply owning the practice over a period of time. By being in the ownership position, long-term wealth can be created. This can involve owning the practice, but employing associate dentists. For example, a dentist that starts their practice at 35 years old, the first 2 years, they build up their cash reserve and grow the practice. At 37 years old, they start contributing to a low-cost investment index, let's say the S&P 500. From the ages of 37 until 60, they contribute an average of 200K to the index a year. The index returns an average of 9% per year. Just on the side, historically, I think over the last 30 years, it's been an average of 10% per year. So we're being a bit conservative. Excuse me. So at age 60, they have a practice that's growing 4 million and an investment portfolio of 16.6 million. It's a net worth of 20.6 million. Now, I've not included any cash that's been saved along the way. So we are being quite conservative here. Now, obviously, this is not to be construed as investment advice. Please consult a financial professional. The point I'm trying to make here is ownership is worth it, and to do it yourself. This means being the unruly dentist, unruly meaning disruptive and not amenable to control. By disrupting the established way of starting a practice, you can remove a lot of the financial control that gets placed on many new practice owners. That's what this guide is about. How to start and run a dental practice successfully. We want to create a tailored identity for your practice, which accentuates your best qualities as a dentist, allowing you to do the work that you enjoy doing. We want to successfully match this tailored practice with the demographic location that is needing your specific practice vision, providing a community with the perfect practice for its population in basically an ideal marriage. We want to design and build the practice yourself in order to save hundreds of thousands of dollars. We want to successfully plan and grow your practice past your break-even point early into your first year. We want to understand the metrics that will make both your practice and business successful. We want to set up a plan for growth and to understand the mechanisms within your practice which will feed that growth. And ultimately, we want to reduce the risk and increase the ability to achieve profit, thus making practice ownership more of a rewarding endeavor. So, the guide, how to start and run a dental practice successfully, 23 modules, 2 parts, prudent practice startup and flying first year success. So what will prudent practice startup address? I've made a list. Finding your dental identity, examining yourself and the career life you want. Who are your ideal patients? Creating your practice values. Forming a competitive advantage. The types of practice models, we're going to look at that and which practice model is right for you. What is your brand? We are going to take a good look at choosing the best location. We have a 40-point demographic checklist to go through, and we'll take you through the entire location selection process. We're going to talk about how to negotiate a lease and avoiding predatory pitfalls in the lease, And we're going to look at how your lease can protect you. We want to design your practice for a lower break-even point, thus a higher profit margin. We're going to look at the characteristics of an efficient operatory, efficient supply storage, and we're going to look at the goals of an efficient floor plan, the equipment and supplies you'll need to start, and choosing the right builder, as well as looking at the entire building process. The complete startup schedule step by step is what we're going to really end up with here. Understanding and managing the expenses of the practice startup project, we're going to make a budget. We're going to create financial projections for your startup practice, knowing your break even and the point in which you can support yourself. We're going to look at how to get a loan and putting together a fantastic loan package. And then we're going to move on to part 2. But ultimately, prudent practice startup, it's going to take you from where you are now, being a thought in your head, to a fully built out, completed practice that is tailor made for you in a location that is best suited for your needs. But that's only going to take us to the halfway point of this guide, because then we're going to start flying first year success. What we're going to do is we're going to look at many things. We're going to look at what do we want in staff members? What are we looking for? We're going to take you through the hiring process. And we're going to look at it more strategically, strategic hiring for your your brand new practice. We're going to look at the importance of new patients, methodology for effective advertising, and marketing decisions using data analysis. Basically, we're going to look at the advertising pathway and come up with a sample marketing strategy for your brand new practice. We're going to evaluate how to create goodwill and organize a launch. Then we're going to look at how to run a dental practice. We may have all worked in them, but how do you run them effectively? We're going to look at the 8 systems that will make your practice run smoothly. Then we're going to zone in on the practice success formula. We're going to really delve into analytics and metrics. You don't need to be a statistician to be able to understand this. Anyone can. We're going to understand our profit, and we're going to look at how bonuses can help drive success. We're going to look at effective ways to lower your overhead, and we're going to create monthly reports to monitor overhead and profit. We're going to do some revenue projecting and how to manage growth. Then we're going to look at how does corporate dentistry operate? Does it affect us? And how does it? And how can we defend ourselves from it? What are our advantages that we can really use here? How can we compete and win against them? The skill set and mindset of successful entrepreneurs. And then we're going to put all the information together for a first year that thrives. So flying first year success, that's going to take you from your tailor built construction from the end of part 1 to the end of your first year in practice ownership. Remember, the goal at the end of that first year is to be earning equivalent to a very strong associate position, but with explosive growth on the horizon as your practice goes from strength to strength. So, this guide for how to set up and run your own practice successfully, this is module 1. So, if you're listening to this, that means you've either starting out and you've gotten the whole presentation and you're starting out with module 1, or there is a chance that you are dipping your toe in the water and just finding out information about it. And you are either watching this module on the website or on YouTube, or you've been sent a link from a friend. Whatever it is, the way that this module is working, it's a reading and listening presentation. The entire guide will be like this. It's something that you can follow and take notes, you can read along, or you can sit back and listen. I've been working on this for some time. I've been setting up these practices, and I had this information in my head. And my goal here really is just to help other dentists like me. I feel like this is a knowledge that I have and that it can help a lot of dentists. So I have been working on this mostly after a full day of dentistry and wrestling my kids. So it's mostly me going through the information in this type of format, a reading and listening presentation. I wanted to make module 1 available to you to see if it's a good fit for you. And you can sit, like I said, you can read along or sit back and listen. And if you go through the course and you would like some more individual attention, we provide individual coaching. This is designed to help dentists individually in order to help guide you through your practice and its planning. So this would involve monthly meetings on a one-on-one capacity with regular email correspondence. So this is intended to help you directly to answer the specific questions you have and to really help brainstorm and plan. It can help to have myself to bounce things off of as we go. So you can contact me through the website or you can email me directly at matherdentaleducation@gmail.com. Okay then. Are you ready? I'm excited. Let's move on to Module 2.